know that's joining in. I do not have an iPhone charger, so lock it. Yeah, and y'all don't even they can't even connect to the little ones, can they? They can't even connect to the wireless chargers, can they? Down on the little pad chargers, can you? That's a lot. You got the, you know what I'm saying? Y'all got this, but there's a lot that y'all can't do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we got some, but I think that's for the alpha, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 8 and up. I got you. Yeah, no, I ain't got the alpha. Bear with me. All right, shalom, Israel, for brothers and sisters tuning in. If y'all can like and share the class, let everybody know. We're getting started momentarily, all right? Bear with me. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and get into it. Shalom, Israel. You're on live with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Priest and Captain Soccer War holding down the class live from Memphis, Tennessee. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have classes here in Memphis from 6 p.m. Central Standard Time until 8 p.m. Since 1969, the Israelite School of UPK have been teaching so-called blacks, Latinos, Native American Indians, according to the Bible. What is the truth? The truth is that the greatest people that have ever lived on the earth, truth is that so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians descend from the greatest people that have ever walked the face of the earth. The Bible identifies us as the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And in this time that we are living in, there's nothing more important than for so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans to understand the truth of who they are, where they come from, and what their purpose is here on earth. With these classes, what we do is give brothers opportunity to go into this book called the Bible to gain the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that the Most High placed in their the Salakia. For brothers and sisters to gain the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that the Most High delivered to our forefathers that at one time established us as a great nation on the earth so that we can learn the lessons that the Most High has provided for us to once again rise and be that great nation on the earth in these times. Everybody understands. So with that said, Tuesday is brotherhood class, Wednesday is biblical law, Thursday is scripture breakdown, and particularly on Thursday nights, I'd like to take an opportunity to do what I call a deep dive into certain topics that are easily misunderstood or misconstrued, whether it be current events, whether it be lies that have been taught concerning the Bible. Thursday nights is an opportunity for brothers and sisters to get those difficult questions answered and to really tackle the topics that are prevalent to the things that we are seeing happening in the society and in the world around us. All right. So, like with that being said, Thursday is definitely the night. Any difficult questions you may have, any particular questions that require some at length breakdowns, Thursdays usually serve for that. So start the class off with questions. Any brothers and sisters in the class have questions, raise your hand. If you have any questions online, all you can do is type them in. All right. If we don't have any questions, or once we get through with the questions, what I want to talk about tonight is cancel culture. All right. We're going to talk about what it is that we are experiencing in this time, in this society that we're living in. I want to pull back the veil or pull back the curtain. The powers that be in this society are trying to accomplish with their cancel culture. Everybody understands. All right. With that said, Sister Kapatnas has a question. The sister said, "Is it lawful for us to have sex while a woman is on her flower?" I'm asking for a person in the world, and I couldn't remember. So the sister wants to know: is it unlawful for a sister to have sex on her flower? All right. Let's go ahead and get the scriptures concerning a woman's menstruation. Everybody understands. Let's get let's get all right, hold on. Okay, let's get Leviticus 15. And we're going to start with verse 16. Everybody understand? Everything we're about to read is the law concerning cleanliness and sex and a woman's menstruation. Everybody, cleanliness, sex, and a woman's menstruation. So Leviticus chapter 15, verse 16. Young man, tell you got it.
Leviticus chapter 15, verse 16. If any man's seed of complication go out from him.
So like copulation.
Copulation.
No sweat. Time from the top.
Leviticus chapter 15, verse 16. If any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water, and be unclean unto the evening.
If any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water, and be unclean until the even. What is that talking about? The seed of copulation is what impregnates a woman. Copulation is to let's go get the definition of that word, copulate. All right. We're going to get the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, put in copulation, right? Copulation is a verb, says to engage in sexual intercourse. Everybody understands? So what is the seed of a man's copulation? It is, another word, ejaculation, or the release that a man has when he's the release that results from a man and a woman having sex. Everybody understands? Anytime semen comes out of a man, he is unclean. He has to go shower. He has to go wash. Everybody understands? If you don't clean, if you don't shower, if you don't wash, you're dirty. Everybody understands? This goes, of course, to show you that the culture of the Israelites was one that was a clean culture. We weren't the people that just, had sex and laid down and then got up, threw some jeans on, and walked out the house and just about that. Everybody understands? So that's first and foremost. When a man has sex with a woman, or if a man, the seed of copulation come out from him, he's unclean until he washes, and then the sun goes down. Everybody understands? Why is someone unclean until the evening? You know? All right. A person is unclean until the evening or the next day. Israel, the new day begins at sundown. When the sun goes down, the sun sets, that is the beginning of a new day. Everybody understand? So a man would be unclean until the evening, meaning a man would be unclean until the even, meaning a man was unclean until the sun went down. The sun going down signified the start of a new day. Everybody understand? That means it's Thursday night. You and your lady, y'all get busy. You are unclean until the following sundown. Everybody understand? That's important for brothers in the truth, because there are certain duties a man cannot perform when he is unclean. So there comes a time in the man's life in the truth where you have to make decisions based on whether they're able to be clean or unclean. Everybody understands? I remember when I was a brother coming up in the truth, we had to go to camp on Fridays and Saturdays, which meant Thursday night and Friday night was off limits for my wife, which meant what? She had to make sure she got it in on Sunday through Wednesday, because come Thursday and Friday, don't touch me. Don't start nothing. Won't be nothing. You understand? Because if I'm unclean, I can't go to camp. Can't speak. I can't read. I can't hold shamar. And the brothers out there at the camp, we need all the men we could get. You understand? So it's important to understand that when you become unclean, you're unclean until the evening. That is the law pertaining to a man's uncleanness as a result from sex, right? Let's go ahead and get verse 17. And every garment and every skin whereon the seed of copulation shall be washed with, whereon is the seed of copulation shall be washed with water and be unclean until the evening. Meaning what? Clothes he had on, the bed that they was on, or the couch, or wherever, whatever was used to clean up afterwards. All of that needs to be washed, and it is unclean until the evening. Everybody understands? Verse 18. The woman also with whom man shall lie with copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the evening. Meaning what? After sex, not only should the man be bathing, so should that woman. She should be cleaning up. Getting that remember the verse 16 said, wash all his flesh in water. Meaning what? You get in the shower, take you a bath. Not that standing at the sink thing that some people do, or some women famous for doing. That bird bath, they call them whole baths where I'm from. You understand? That whole bath does not suffice if you want to be clean after having sex. This is our culture. It's in the Bible. Everybody understands. We go to show you ain't nothing new. These hoes think they doing something new standing over that sink. Ain't nothing new. That's something that God knew about that. He said, listen, that ain't acceptable. Moses established with the children of Israel, you have sex, you got to shower, you got to bathe and cleanse your whole body. Everybody understands. All right. So like Leviticus chapter 15, verse 19. Everybody understands. It says, and if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever touches her shall be unclean until the evening. Everybody understands? So what does that mean? When it talks about her having an issue, don't think of the context of the word issue isn't like we use it today. An issue is in being a problem. An issue in this context is a woman problem, a woman issue. Everybody understands. Which is what the Hebrew was translated into in the 1600s. It was understood that a woman having an issue was meant having a woman problem. That was how they referred to it. Everybody understands. What kind of problems do women have? Women bleed once a month. That's a woman problem. Sometimes women bleed, and it's not that time of the month. Women have something called spotting, or some women have discharge, or there's a woman issue. We men, that's a woman issue. Everybody understands. That's the context of it in here in Leviticus 15 and 19. So I'm going to read one more time. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days. When a woman begins to bleed, when a woman has her issue, or her cycle comes on, or her monthly problem, she is unclean for 7 days, regardless of how long she bleeds. Even if she bleeds 2 days, she's unclean 7 days. She bleed 1 day, then she's off for 2 days, then she bleeds on the 3rd day, and then the 5th day, and then she don't bleed no more. She's unclean for 7 days after that first day she began to bleed. Everybody understands? So a woman is set apart 7 days whenever her issue begins, no matter what. Everybody understands? Whosoever touches her shall be unclean until the evening. You touch until the evening. She's unclean. You understand? That toilet she sits is unclean. Anything that her issue touches or comes in contact with is unclean to the evening. Come on with it. Come on with it.
So just saying, like, you can't like even lay in the bed with your woman while she on the cycle.
That's a good question. It's not saying that. Understand that this was written at a time when thousands of years ago, right? They didn't have all of the sanitary, I don't want to say inventions, but the dealing with sanitation was a little different back then, right? Nowadays, women got all types of gadgets and tricks and things to keep the blood, hell, to them, right? Women got all kind of contraptions and special this and that. Thousand years ago, all right, there we go. So, Lockie, y'all, let me know if y'all hearing me and seeing me clearly, man. So, Lockie, check online for me, y'all. You seeing it? Is it back up? All right, it's back up. It's not back. It's all right. Okay, cuz as far as I said, she can hear. Anybody else out there, let me know. She said she can't see. She can hear, but she can't see. Try to refresh your page, sis, and let me know. All right. Sister Walcott says it's jumping real bad. Brother Macau says to Wab, the water. Anybody else? Let me hear me and see me. Anybody on YouTube? Give me a one. Give me a one if you can hear and you can see. Okay, Most High Christ. All right, so we should be back up. So lucky, we should be back up. For those of y'all that's tuning in, did it stop the stream? I wanted to let me know if the stream stopped or is it still the same same stream that y'all beginning. I'll worry about that later. All right. We can go ahead and continue moving forward. We're Leviticus 15 and night 20. So the brother's question was, does everything that a woman touch become unclean? Or can you not lie with your woman, meaning just lay in the bed with her, sleep in the same bed with her while she's unclean or on her cycle? The answer is you can lay in the bed with your woman while she's unclean. Today, there are ways that a woman can be sanitary today that were not available to her 4,000 years ago. You understand? So this was a law that was established during the time where a woman could have some cloth or whatever she had to keep the blood separate during that time of the month. She might bleed through what she got on. She might, bleed. There's a chance she lay down and wake up. There may be blood places where it shouldn't be blood. This law was established that wherever she lays, wherever that blood, that is now what is unclean. Everybody understands? So today, there's no reason for a woman's blood to be everywhere or to be getting places where it shouldn't, because there are a lot of ways tools designed to keep a woman's blood to her while she's dealing with that issue for the month. Everybody understands? So this Leviticus 15 and 20 is talking about all the places where this woman's blood could be, all the places in contact with the unclean part of her, which is where the blood is. Everybody understand? All right, it says so Leviticus 15 and 20. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. Verse 21. And whosoever touches her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. And whosoever touches anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. And if it be on her bed or on anything whereupon she sitteth, when he touches it, he shall be unclean until the evening. Everybody understands? What does verse 23 mean? It's talking about the blood. This is all about the blood. It's not just the woman, it's about the blood. Everybody understands? Verse 24. And if any man with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean days, and all the bed whereon he shall be unclean. Everybody understand? If you have sex with a woman while she's on her period or while she's bleeding, you are unclean for 7 days. Everybody understand? Is it unlawful to? Is it unlawful to engage intercourse while a woman? No, it is not unlawful. It is not a sin. It is not evil. However, it is not expedient. Everybody understand? Give your woman's body a break, man. Let her have her 7 days of uncleanness. Let her get herself together. Hell, maybe it might be good. Maybe the 7 days not having sex could maybe add some passion to when she's, no longer on her cycle. But hey, what the scripture says, where there's no purposes of the soldiers. I know here we can't afford no soldier to be out for 7 days. Everybody understand? That's just you got to wait. You got to gain you some patience, brother. You understand? It's a little bit of discipline, and she'll be all right. You'll be all right. Give that thing a break for 7 days. Everybody understand? All right. So let's keep reading because Officer Malakia had a question concerning what if a woman bleeds beyond the the 7 days. All right. We get into that in verse 25. Verse 25, if a woman have an issue of her blood many days out of the time of her separation, or if it run beyond the time of her separation. What is the time of her separation? Yes. What is the time a woman has to be separated when she is bleeding? 7 days. So if she bleeds beyond the days of her separation, if she bleeds beyond the 7 days, that's what this is talking about now. All right. Middle of verse 25. All the days of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation. She shall be unclean. Everybody understands? However long she bleeds beyond the 7 days, that's how long she is unclean. When she is no longer bleeding, when she is no longer spotting, when she is no longer having that discharge as a result of an issue in the flesh, then she's now clean again. Everybody understands? So what does that mean? If you have a woman that we live in a time where there's all different types of medicines and things out there, and every woman's body is different. Some women they may bleed for 3 days. Some women they may bleed for 5. Some women bleed for 15 days. Some women may bleed 1 day, then don't bleed for 3 or 4, then bleed for 5 days, and then don't bleed for 2 or 3, then bleed another 4 days. Every woman is different. Everybody understands? She's unclean from 7 days when she started bleeding, and then after those 7 days, she's unclean the days that she. Everybody understands? All right. And if there's a situation that you don't understand, or you may not know when she's clean, when she's unclean, just get some counsel for it. Everybody understands? All right. Let's read in verse 27. And whosoever touches those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. Give me a second, y'all. Hey, shalom. All right. All right. We're in Leviticus chapter 15, verse 27. It says, and whosoever touches those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself and be unclean until the evening. Everybody understands? But if she's cleansed of her issue, then she shall number to herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. Everybody understands? So that is that. The woman is unclean for 7 days after she begins her issue or begins her cycle. After the 7 days, if she is no longer bleeding, she is clean again. If she continues to bleed beyond the 7 days, she is unclean until a day has, and she is no longer bleeding. Everybody understand? All right. Sister Kapaza, should have answered your question. The question again was, is it lawful for a woman to have sex on her monthly? Everybody understand? All right. So we're good on that. Any other questions? Online or in the class? Officer Malaki, I believe I answered your class as well. If we don't have any questions, we'll go ahead and get into tonight's topic. All right, Most High Christ. All right. So again, we're going to talk tonight about cancel culture. All right. Does anybody know what is cancel culture? What does that term mean? It's one that we're hearing a lot today. There's a lot that's going on in this society, a lot that's changing in the what is acceptable in this society that we live in. Cancel culture. Anybody want to take a shot at it?
Yes, another person
Yeah, come on, you got to break it down for me. You know I'm asking next. What does that mean? Just give me a let's say I'm somebody who I ain't been around for the past 5 years, and I'm just waking up yesterday. And I look on the TV and I'm seeing all this cancel. I see canceled Bill Cosby, and they just canceled the football coach for the Oakland for the Las Vegas Raiders. They canceled. What was they canceled? They canceled the movie producer. What was his name? Harvey Weinstein. What is going on with all these people being canceled? What is this? What are they talking about? Somebody explain it to me. Young Tech.
I would say it's just it's something new. I mean, like different times, they're trying to stop us here.
Okay, those for anybody else. You want to take a shot at it? What do you know about cancel culture?
Council culture is like basically say that person.
Speak a little bit louder if you could.
Council culture is basically what we say like this person not in no more. It's not. You don't really mess with them.
Okay, so the people who are being canceled. This is a cancel culture is when pointing out someone or something that we no longer support anymore. This is somebody who used to be accepted, used to be okay, but now they're not okay anymore. Now we're pointing them out and saying this person, they're canceled. What they represent, what they stand for, it's not acceptable anymore. Everybody understands? That's more to it. Everybody understands? In essence, cancel culture is the attempt to reshape or reestablish what is deemed acceptable and normal in the society that we live in today. Everybody understands. Cancel culture is the attempt to reshape or reestablish what is accepted and identified as normal behavior in today's culture. Everybody understands. Now, the things that are being canceled. Oh, well, let me hold on. What we call reshaping and reestablishing the way society views man. What is another way that we what is a word that we use to define a period of reshaping or reestablishing what is accepted as normal behavior in a society throughout history? What we're experiencing right now is not the first time that there's been a shift in culture, right? Not the first time that there's been an examination of behaviors and people saying, hey man, this isn't right. We shouldn't accept this here. Or hey, these people over here being treated a certain way, that's not right. They shouldn't be treated that way. There needs to be a change. Isn't it? This isn't the first time we've experienced this, is it? We use to identify periods of change within society. Today, they're calling it cancel culture. What are some things that it's been called in the past? In order for us to be able to understand, we have first, let's go to the dictionary and let's look up the definition of the word culture. Everybody understands? All right. Let's get it. Since Kapadas, I said cancel culture is to have something removed or something stopped. All right. Okay. And she's on it. She's on it. What we're going to do with tonight's class is establish a baseline that baseline. Do was pull back the curtain and expose what is really at the core of this cancel culture. And what is being canceled is not what you think is being canceled. What is being rooted out is not what you think is being rooted out. It's actually a lot more disgusting what is taking place in the society right now. But many people don't have eyes to see or ears to hear to understand or comprehend what it is that's taking place. And it is my hope that throughout tonight's class we'll be able to leave here having a righteous perspective of everything that we see taking place in this society. All right, I might need to speed through some of it, but visit this topic and spend more time on it, we definitely will. Everybody understand? All right, the brother Macau said Renaissance that is in the past, in a period of reshaping or reestablishing what is considered acceptable or normal in society. There was a period in Europe called the Renaissance era. And what took place during the Renaissance era? There was a canceling of the culture that existed prior to the Renaissance period. What was Europe? What was the time in Europe known as prior to the Renaissance? Does anybody know? What was the Renaissance? The Renaissance period is known historic. Well, the word Renaissance means rebirth. The Renaissance period in Europe was the rebirth of. It was the rebirth of culture in Europe. It was the re-emergence of white people being the prominent, royal, high-class people in Europe. Prior to the Renaissance, there was a period in Europe known as the Dark Ages. Why were the Dark Ages known as the Dark Ages? It was a time when dark-skinned people ruled in Europe. All the royalty, all the high society, all of the famous families, all of the aristocrats, the artists and the musicians and the people with the power and the influence, they were dark. The Renaissance was the rebirth or the reestablishment of the royal class, reestablishment of the people who were now the decision makers and the musicians and the artists and the policy makers. That's what the Renaissance period was known. Well, that's what was called the Renaissance period, because it was the takeover of the white man. Everybody understands. What events took place during the Renaissance that aided or spearheaded this white takeover in Europe? Does anybody think of some famous events in history that coincided with the Renaissance era? If anybody knows any history, name me some events. Robert said Caesar Borgia, the painting of Caesar Borgia is one. Anybody else? What are some events in history that took place shortly after the Renaissance period? The transatlantic slave trade took place during the Renaissance period. The Spanish Inquisition took place. The the French Revolution, the American Revolution. All of these events had to do with one set of standards in society and the establishment of another. Everybody understands? You cannot have a rebirth, a reestablishment of culture without having a revolution or a rebellion. Everybody understands. Cancel culture is revolution. Cancel culture is rebellion against what has previously been accepted as normal. And that is what is taking place in this society today. There is a revolution going on, a rebellion. Everybody understands. And if you know anything historically about a revolution, if you know anything historically about rebellion, it is not peaceful. You don't bring an end to one period of time and the beginning of another without there being some bloodshed, without there being some casualties, without there being someone going to war, someone being conquered, and someone being defeated and overthrown. Everybody understands? All right, so with that in mind, cancel culture equals revolution, right? We are living in the midst of a revolution. And it is a revolution that is just as bloody, just as aggressive as was the French Revolution, as the American Independence Revolution, as it was the Renaissance in Europe. Everybody understands. If you go study any of those events in history, there was a lot of bloodshed, there was a lot of casualties, there was a forcing of this new way of doing things onto the people of those times. Everybody understands. What is culture? All right. Definition of culture is the customary beliefs, social norms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. Everybody understands. One more time. The customary beliefs, social norms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. It's another definition of culture. The set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices characterizes an institution or an organization. Everybody understands? The set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization. All right. And this is the one that we're gonna focus in on here. Hold on. The one we're gonna focus in on here is this third one. Hold on. Oh, no. Bear with me. I'm getting all these. What's the name? Hold on. Hold on. All right. Okay. Well, we're gonna stay with the second one. All right. We're gonna stay with these first two. All right. So in essence, culture is what a group of people decide to accept as being the normal, acceptable rules, standards, and practices for the society that they live in. Everybody understands? Culture is what we decide is acceptable. It's what we decide is right and wrong. It's what we decide is good and bad. It's what we decide is okay and it's not okay. Everybody understands? Culture is a group, one group enforcing its will on another. Everybody understands? When you look around the earth today, every society has a different culture. That's what makes people different. That's what makes races unique. Everybody understands? All over the earth, There are many different cultures. There are many different ways of doing things. There's many, what's acceptable to eat here in America is different than what's acceptable to eat in East India. What's acceptable in terms of dating and courting a woman in China is different than what is acceptable or the practice that they have in Africa. Everybody understands? So culture is decided upon and accepted by a group of people. The culture, however, in America that is being rebelled against right now is a culture that was established by the oppressor here in America. The people who are rebelling, okay, so there's a culture that exists in America, and that culture is rebelled against right now, right? The problem is, not the problem, it's important to note or to understand, though, that the culture that's being rebelled against is a culture of low morality. You understand? Think of the people who have been canceled since the beginning of this revolution. Name some of the people. I already named Bill Cosby. I named Harvey Weinstein. What's other people? They didn't cancel Dave Chappelle. They outraged at Dave Chappelle, but they didn't cancel Dave Chappelle. Another person who was rebelled against, what's the brother's name? The Baby. There's someone else on Miss R. Kelly. R. Kelly is someone who's been canceled. These people who have been canceled, what canceled for? Come on with it. No, that's not what they were canceled for. And that's why I brought this up. Bear with me 1 second, y'all. Take a break real quick. I'm gonna be right back. Brothers and sisters online, bear with me. Y'all in the class, bear with me. I gotta get some notes right quick. All right? So, give me 1 second. Salaki, Salaki. Salaki, y'all. Salaki. Step away for a second, make a call, get these notes. All right. Salaki. Okay. All right. Now we good. Let's, like I said, I might have to go through this a little quick. All right. We're gonna go through it. And like I said, if I need to revisit this in another class, maybe make a longer video, make a video about it, then I'll do that. All right. So I'm just gonna run down this whole cancel culture thing. Everybody understands. All right. You can't cancel culture because culture is something that takes time to develop, takes time to establish, it takes generation. What is right or wrong, people aren't rebelling against what is healthy or something that's unhealthy and replacing it with something that's healthy are people who are hypocrites. Everybody understands. And let me make sure I'm clear about what I'm saying. These special groups, these different letters that people are being represented by, they are not anything that is new in the earth, right? They are not something that's a recent occurrence in society. These people have been around since society have been around. These people have been existing as they are in this culture, even in the previous culture. Everybody understands. The difference is the people who are waging war against the cultures that has existed are people who are no longer willing to have to hide who they are. Everybody understands. And the war that's being fought is we're no longer going to hide who we are. We are going to be accepted. And the way that we're going to be accepted is we are going to expose who you are in hiding. Everybody understands. What do I mean by this? The people who used to be in the closet are now opening up the closet doors of other people. Everybody understands. The people who used to have to hide are now showing everyone what these other people have been hiding. Which means what about the culture that has existed in this place for a long time? It is the culture that creates the people who are now fighting to be accepted. Are y'all seeing what I'm picking up on down? R. Kelly was canceled, right? Why was R. Kelly canceled? For having sex with underage women, for having a sexual deviant lifestyle with what she would recruit young women, have sex with them, in essence, seduce them and imprison them and rape them and keep them under his control, right? What's different between Okay. Was R. Kelly right for what he was doing? No. R. Kelly was wrong. Was R. Kelly moral for what he was doing? No. R. Kelly was immoral for what he was doing. Was any of what he was doing right? No, none of what he was doing was right. But was it accepted? Okay, that's the question. R. Kelly's behavior has been accepted for a very long time. What R. Kelly has been doing has been known about for a very long time. Nobody said anything, nobody did anything for a very long time. Because the culture that exists is a culture where men who do the things that R. Kelly did have been accepted. By exposing R. Kelly or by bringing the details of his behaviors behind closed doors to light, it has made people say, this is a disgusting man, this is an evil man, he should be canceled, we should get rid of him, we should remove him, we should no longer allow men like this to be accepted, right? What are we replacing R. Kelly with? Who are the men that are accepted? Who are the men that are okay? Who are the men that, all right, well, that's normal? It's Lil Nas X. Is what's being pushed, what's accepted, and what else? Who's the brother who wore that gown at the acting the Oscars? I want to say his name is Billy something. It's some brother. He wears. Okay, R. Kelly has been canceled, right? Harvey Weinstein is another guy. He's a prominent movie producer, right? He's famous and he's powerful. He can hire you for a movie and make you famous. What was he doing behind closed doors? He was using his power, using his position to force women to perform sexual favors, forcing women to do sexual things and blackmailing them and making it so that they could not get hired in the industry if they didn't do these nasty things that he wanted them to do, right? Harvey Weinstein was exposed. Was he right for what he was doing? No. Should it be acceptable for a man to use his power and his position and his authority to force women into doing things that they otherwise would not want to do? No. That man needs to be removed. But what is being put in his place? Think about that. Cosby. On TV, Bill Cosby was the upright, wholesome father guy, father figure for the black community, right? What was Bill Cosby doing behind closed doors? Bill Cosby was raping women, putting drugs in their drinks, forcing them to black so that he could do who knows what with them sexually, right? Was it a secret what Bill Cosby was doing? No, it was known for a while. Was it a secret what Harvey Weinstein was doing? No, it was known for a while. It was accepted in Hollywood that, hey, you want to get a movie deal, you got to go sit on the casting couch. You want to be famous? Well, there's a price that you got to pay. You might go and, do something strange for a little change. That is what was acceptable, right? Should that have been acceptable? Should that have been normal? No. Now that is being fought against. But what is taking its place? The fight that's being fought now is not a fight against what's right and what is wrong. It's not a fight that's being fought against people who are moral versus people who are moral. The fight that's being fought now is a fight against people who are hypocrites. It is a fight for who is going to be oppressed and who is going to be the oppressor. But it is not a fight for who's right and who's just. Everybody understands? Again, everyone who's being fought against, the problem is the people who are fighting against them are worse than the people who they are fighting against. Everybody understands? The special groups who are at the front of this revolution, they are the same people who are at the front of the culture that is being rebelled against. You understand? Who created the standards and the norms that allowed men like Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, unharmed for all these years? Who created the system that they thrived in? Who created the environment where little girls could be taken advantage of, could be used and manipulated, and nobody bats an eye, even thinks twice about it? It's the same people today who in this revolution are telling women that they should embrace their sexuality, that they should have the freedom of expression, that they should be able to dress and be able to have sex and be able to live however they want, and no one should do what? Nobody should judge them. The people of the alphabet people who are making sure that their way of life is accepted, that are making sure that their orientation is respected, aren't they the same people who what I'm trying to say? The people who are fighting to be accepted today, they are the same people who existed secretly at the top of the society that created men like Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, and R. Kelly. The only difference now is they want to be accepted. So what they're doing is they are fighting against hypocrisy. Everybody saw Lil Nas X come out with the video where he's dancing naked, right? On that, saw the video, but there's a video of him and a bunch of men dancing half naked, right? That's disgusting. That's nasty, right? Everybody's outraged at that. Why can't you be outraged though? The cancel culture says you're outraged about Lil Nas X dancing half naked with a bunch of men in the video. Why? Because you didn't say anything about it when there was little girls doing it. You didn't say anything about it when there was women. You understand? You had women dancing naked. You had women sliding down a pole. You had women dancing on a man's lap. We're living in the era of equality. We're living in the era of acceptance. Do it, but a man can do it? How dare you shame this man for expressing himself? How dare you shame him for embracing his sexuality? You didn't do it. You didn't say anything about it when it was women doing it. Should it have been acceptable for women to be naked dancing on TV? Should it have been accepted for women to be half naked dancing in men's laps for everybody to see? You didn't say nothing about it when there was a woman doing it. Now that it's a man doing it, what's the problem? What's the issue here? You understand? The baby got canceled for speaking about transgender people, right? If you go and you watch the video from the concert of what he said is nothing compared to what he says in his songs about murdering and about killing and about abusing and taking advantage of black men and women in general. But that music that he sings is praised and it's accepted as normal. It's normal to talk about killing black men, shooting them down in the streets. It's normal to talk about selling drugs and to talk about drugging women and intoxicating them, having sex with them and then throwing them away. That's completely acceptable. You ain't saying nothing when the baby was rapping about doing all those things. You didn't say nothing. But now he comes out and he says something against homosexuality and everybody's in the uproar. That's hypocrisy. Everybody understand? That is being waged today. The war, the revolution that is taking place right now is it's a war to erase the voices of people who are hypocrites. And the hypocrites in this society are the people who are who have pretend morality, or who have pretend standards, who have pretend rules that is of things that is accepted as normal but should not be accepted. The people who are fighting are the people who are saying, when you accepted these horrible things as being normal, accept my horrible thing as being normal. Everybody understands? And the reason why no one can speak against it is because you sadly by and you allow the people in charge of the culture that's being fought against to establish theirs. Everybody understands? The reason why I'm saying teaching this class is because it is especially important for those of us in the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian community to understand that our movement in a fight against oppression is what has been hijacked as the what's the word I'm looking for? As the catalyst or the inspiration for people who are fighting to be accepted today. In the end of this revolution, when people look back on what changed the world and how did these behaviors that are being pushed in the society today became acceptable, the history will remember Black people. This is revolution that's taking place right now. These groups that are dying to be respected, of all these special groups who are dying to be recognized, of all these people who refuse to hide anymore, it's going to all come back to Black people and the civil rights movement. What we have to understand is that from the beginning, that civil rights movement was hijacked by the same people who are in charge of the movement today. If you go back to the beginning of the civil rights movement, what was the civil rights movement about from the beginning? It was Black people fighting against the unequal and unfair treatment by their oppressor, right? How were we being treated unfairly? And how were we being treated unequally at that time? We were not being paid, and we were not allowed to establish ourselves separate from our oppressor. Everybody understand? That was a revolution of morality. It was a revolution of right and wrong. It was a revolution of you're able to have something good and you're denying that same good to us. Everybody understand? What is it that when the civil rights movement began, what is it that we desire? We desire to have the ability to prosper, to have the ability to self-govern, to have the ability to decide for ourselves what was right and what was wrong and what was acceptable, right? In essence, the civil rights movement was a movement for us to be separate. Everybody understands? Go back to the beginning, go back to the late 50s or 60s. Go back even to I want to say the Harlem Renaissance period. We were fighting to establish a culture that was ours. We were fighting to establish something that we could take pride in. We couldn't take pride in being the people who were the children of slaves. We couldn't take pride in being the people who were second class to anybody. We wanted to have our own, right? And when we began to have our own, what did we have in the 60s and the 70s? We had Black power. We had say it loud, I'm Black and out. We had a culture that we could be proud of. How was that overthrown? How was that overtaken? There's a man named Bayard Rustin. Look him up. There's a man named Philip A. Randolph. Look him up. They were the men who spearheaded Martin Luther King to being in charge of the civil rights movement, which turned into a movement movement of segregation and joining the oppressor. But that was never the intention of the civil rights movement when it began. Everybody understands? The civil rights movement began as, again, Black people revolting against the oppression and the unfair and unequal treatment of them by the oppressor, denying us the rights to property, denying us the ability to establish governments and a system where we could establish resources for ourselves. Bayard Rustin, Philip A. Randolph, Martin Luther King turned the civil rights movement into us begging the government for help. Us begging our oppressor to give us the resources and the things that we desire. And that's not what it began as. Everybody understands. What took place in power and self-sufficiency to begging at the table of our oppressor, to fighting for the right to vote, fighting for the right to join them in their schools and to learn from them and to be a part of their system. Huh? And how do Black power and Black unity and wanting our own to we'll join the oppressor, we'll go vote, and we'll go be a part of their system. Was it? Maybe I'll give it to you this way. How did we go from Black power, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, to I got a pocket full of stars. Gin and it ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. What was that period like? Go from Black power, Black people unified, standing up, loving one another, to now we're selling each other drugs, we're gang banging, we're pimping our sisters, we're hoeing our sisters, we're hitting one another. Was that a transition? Was that one that was it a passive? Hey man, it's just how it happened. Or was there a revolution? Our oppressor, in order to change our culture, when we're talking about Black culture, right? Black culture in the beginning 1900s was Black people coming together, Black people being self-sufficient, doing for themselves. You had Black Wall Street. We had colleges, universities. We training our children. We're producing doctors, lawyers, engineers. We're taking pride in ourselves, taking pride in our parents and our education and the upkeep of our communities, right? What is the oppressor doing? The oppressor is doing everything he can to stop that. He's trying to shut down our factories. He's destroying our communities, literally like they did Black Wall Street, like they did Seneca Village in New York City, where they have Central Park now. There was a purposeful attack on all the infrastructure and the resources that we had, which allowed us to be separate and independent from our oppressor. The response to that was Black people standing up and saying, we're not going to take this. That's what the marching and the protesting was about prior to and leading up to the Vietnam, Korean War, and that whole time period of Black power with our people raising up. Oppressor's response to that. What was the oppressor's response to the Black Power movement? What was their response to us becoming independent and having our own resources and formulating our own, governmental systems and structures within our communities across this country? Their response was COINTELPRO. You might know what COINTELPRO was. COINTELPRO was a program which used Black government agents to infiltrate these pro-Black programs and organizations in an effort to turn those organizations from the good works that they were doing to doing bad works, so that the government could shut them down and overthrow them. What was COINTELPRO? COINTELPRO was counter-revolution. The revolution for black people was to separate from the oppressor, to establish our own. The oppressor's response was to aggressively and violently and by any means necessary squash. How did those Black Power organizations go from being Black people unified, Black people standing together, Black people willing to do for ourselves, to everybody go vote, everybody go beg the oppressor, let's go march and protest in the streets? It was, they murdered all the heads of organizations. They threw in jail all the people who were responsible for teaching and leading and transforming the thoughts of the people. You understand? Then they took those organizations, they put people in charge of those organizations, and used the people who they put in charge to sell drugs, to go and do crimes, to do murders, to go and to break the spirit of the people of that time. You understand? The process of us going from Black Power to selling crack was not without bloodshed. It was not without a lot of violence. It was not without a lot of trauma and turmoil. You understand? And it is because of all of that violence and that trauma and that turmoil from roughly the 60s until the mid 80s laid the foundation for today. You understand? The culture that is being rebelled against now is a culture that was made possible because of the removal of the righteous culture that Black people tried to establish, rebelling against